with the potential future New York Football Giant here. And this is a guy that we talked about when we first hired a certain offensive line coach there in Carmen Bricillo. We looked at potential people who were free agents that might be a good fit for the New York Giants there going forward, that would be familiar with the system, had success with him in the system there. And we came up with a name that came in for a visit today, and that's Greg Van Roten. Now, may sound familiar to some New York fans in general. You see the jersey he was wearing in the picture there, as he was a former Jet there. It was originally reported by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that he was visiting the Giants here today on Monday. And like I said, he played for Carmen Bricillo there, the Raiders last year, started all 17 games, gave up 5 sacks, which was the 9th most in the NFL. So obviously that's not a good stat to have. But he also logged a 75.3 PFF grade. So that's a very good grade. And I always say stats can be a little misleading when it comes to sacks sometimes, because you're looking at like, who was responsible? Well, do you know the play? Do you know who's supposed to guard who?
Who's putting pressure? Who's gelling with
Joe
who's gelling with who?
Yeah,
Joe Magellan.
So to give you an idea, though, Andrew Thomas last year, 76.1 PFF grade. 75.3 by Greg Van Roten this past season, I should say. So when you're close to Andrew Thomas, granted, Andrew Thomas had an injured year short, like this, I'm not saying it's Andrew Thomas normal, but you're still doing something right. And that's not to sit there and say that this guy is the future starter, future all-star, whatever, the Pro Bowler, anything crazy like that there, because he's probably not. The guy was eventually an undrafted free agent from UPenn, signed with the Packers there to spend time with the Seahawks, the Jaguars, the Jets, the Bills, and even the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. Now, you don't typically bounce around like that when you're a very good player. But he had a very good year last year, so that's what's got me going, okay, there's some potential there. He is 34 there, so we had to temper our thoughts in the fact that he's probably, I think,
long-term answer.
Yeah, he's one of two things, I think. Either he fits in as a veteran who just happens to know Bricillo's system, which is nothing wrong with that, guys. Is there anybody in the backup guard position right now that you're excited about? Let's be very frank there for a minute. As of right now, the way it stands, if you have Jon Runyan Jr. on one side and Jermaine Eluemunor on the other side, like that's what they've been talking about for the most part, then Aaron Stinney I like, but I'm not so sure I got much more beyond that, Yeah, I mean, like, you really got faith in some of the guys we drafted the last couple of years. Schlottman is also not necessarily a bad option either, but, are you that impressed by our North Carolina duo from a couple of years ago that can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field? I mean, how many times did we need guys and we just didn't have them? So, yeah, keep bringing people in that have some sort of talent, because the bar is set low, guys. The bar is set low.
How low can it go?
Oh, it's the limbo game. We've definitely, I think, got to the point where the bar's on the goddamn floor, but it's like, I look at this and I wonder, and Rob, I love to read the tea leaves. I love to read the tea leaves.
As he drinks his tea.
And I think, and I'm like, well, actually, I had some chocolate milk before I started, and also a glass of rum separate than that, too. But
ooh, saucy over here.
It's a rum evening. But I look at the fact that, it's late in the season. This is not a early in the offseason obvious plan kind of move at that point there. He may have been on their back burner, but if they were interested in him, they would have some conversations, you would think, early on during the offseason. The fact that it's happening this late makes me think that they're trying to change course in something. So I go look and go, okay, what are they trying to change course on? Well, who's the one guy who's been on the hot seat already to start this offseason and is basically not been seen at all on the field during the OTA, riding a bike for part of it, and that's about it.
Ooh.
And that's Evan Neal. So I have no information, guys, that nobody else has. I'm not trying to claim that.
It's pure speculation.
Speculation, exactly. But with the purest of speculation,
So pure.
Is it possible that Jermaine Eluemunor goes over to right tackle, which is where I personally would like him to be? Van Roten then goes over to right guard, where he played alongside Eluemunor just last year with the Las Vegas Raiders, and the two were very successful together. Then you put Jon Runyan at the left guard position, which is where he's already said he prefers to play. And then Evan Neal has to earn his spot. He's not just handed a starting position. And I'm not so sure that's the plan, guys. It's just, again, when something happens later on in the year, like this, like later on this off season, that means something happened, guys. That's something we don't know about yet. That's not something that you're like, let's just pick this guy up. What the hell? Like, that doesn't happen that way.
No.
Someone has disappointed them so far, or someone is injured. That's usually one of the two scenarios is what happens.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Mr. Neal get himself hurt. Flipping them burgers.
Yeah, that's exactly. He got a carpal tunnel flipping those burgers. We talked about it before. Evan Neal is. They make it seem like this is a make or break year for him. I don't think it's a make or break year. It's a make or break off season for Evan Neal. This team is not going to wait long and see what happens.
No,
if you look at what they've showed us so far on Hard Knocks, and you watch that show, Joe Shane is basically pissed off Mara on purpose and basically ignored him, not listening to things he wants to do. Now, that's okay when you're winning. When you're not winning, that's an issue. That puts everybody on the hot seat, not just Joe Shane, but that makes Joe Shane make moves to make sure he doesn't get himself on the hot seat.
Correct.
And I think that's exactly what this is. Now, again, it's a visit. It is not a signing. It is not the greatest song in the world. It is but a tribute.
This is the tribute.
But you look at what's going on and you go, this would make some sense if that's what it is. Why else would you bring this guy in? And typically when the Giants bring somebody in for a visit, a signing does follow. If you look at some of the guys that brought in even last year, like Robinson's a perfect example. Ashawn Robinson got brought in, and everybody kind of forgot he went for a visit and then got signed like a month later. The Giants typically, in the Shane era, have signed people that have come in for a visit.
Yeah.
It's like a formality.
I mean, that's fair. Normally you visit somewhere before you get signed. You don't just get signed up.
Yeah.
But it is, last offseason, like, there's definitely a change since the Shane era. Like, if they're going to make a move this late in the offseason, like, there's a good shot that they're saying, hey, you kid.
Hey, you.
$Shadbox.
Hey, you. Bada boom. Bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens overall, but I'm kind of excited because it's, again, Greg Van Roten falls into this category of where he's not great, guys. I'm not suggesting he is by no sense of the imagination. But what I'm suggesting is he may be better than what we have. And that's all that matters. We're not going for a top 5 offensive line this year. I'd be freaking ecstatic with it. Don't get me wrong. That should be the goal. But the realistic, obtainable goal is to have an average offensive line after having a horrendous one the last few years / decade.
Listen, we've said this quite a bit. Yeah, 30 years. If you jump up to 15 after being 30,
yep,
at 32, it's a hell of an increase. Is 15 the best?
Hell.
No. But is it a drastic increase? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. We'll see what happens there. But I think expect a signing to come and expect that signing to be for a reason. Somebody's going to get either bye-bye or someone's going to be sitting on the bench that you thought might not have been. Something is happening here, but we'll find out what. So
if you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please.